anticipating what might happen next, has become a movement in and of itself, trying to prevent what could end up blowing up. And it's so strange how responsible it really feels. Like staying ahead, staying prepared feels like caring. It feels like my attention is exactly where it needs to be. Welcome to Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated. I'm Jana Shalom, educator, system weaver, and our full-time master regulator. This is not a podcast. This is an attunement lab. Here we move through a living sequence, a truth, a pause, a moment of bracing, and a breath that brings us back. We name the nervous system, Shalom, as companion. We name survival responses as intelligent. And we open the sanctuary door from the inside. Nothing needs fixing. Welcome to the sanctuary. Let the weaving begin. This is Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated. I'm Jana Shalom. You're listening to Season 1, The Sanctuary. We are in Arc 2, where nothing has to be done. This is the full moon. Something is fully visible now because we've waited long enough for something to be seen. This episode is called Why Does It Feel Like Everything Will Fall Apart If We Don't Step in? He is still standing across the room, still on the rug, still rubbing lotion into his hands, slowly at first, but then more steadily. The room hasn't changed. The other children are still at tables, on the rug, markers moving across paper, small voices rising and falling softly around the room as children are talking to each other about what they're reading, what they're writing about. Chairs scrape lightly across the floor, somewhere behind me. Someone laughs for a second and then settles back into their learning. These small moments happen again and again. And while they're happening, he remains on the rug. And still, something else begins moving. This time, it's not in the body. This time, it's actually in my mind. It's quieter than that physical pull to hurry up and step in and respond. It's less immediate, but it's just as fast. What if this doesn't work? The thought arrives quickly. What if he gets up and throws something? What if he gets up and turns to another child and this turns into something bigger? What if someone walks in and sees this moment where he is regulating himself? What if this becomes the conversation? Am I going to have to explain this later? Am I going to have to explain this in a way that's going to help people understand? A conversation where I'm expected to have all of the answers. Because that's how this typically works. What if this becomes something I should have stopped sooner? What if this becomes something that I should have done differently? Many images come to mind, flashbacks to things that have happened in the past. Not super dramatically, but familiar. There's a familiar response to how these things typically go. Small flashes of moments this has happened before. And it starts quietly, and it shifts suddenly. The body is still sitting at the table, still facing forward. But my attention is already somewhere else. I'm no longer here in the present moment. I'm further ahead. I'm anticipating what might come next. I'm trying to reach for the future before it's even arrived, because it's responsible. Anticipating what might happen next has become a movement in and of itself. Trying to prevent what could end up blowing up. And it's so strange how responsible it really feels. Like staying ahead, staying prepared feels like caring. It feels like my attention is exactly where it needs to be. The thoughts keep organizing themselves. This is how it typically goes. This is how I typically need to lead the interaction. This is typically what moves after something like this happens. Meanwhile, while my mind is going through all of these different ideas, thoughts, and possible reactions, he's still sitting there on the rug. He's still rubbing lotion into his hands. He's still watching his own fingers, paying attention as his hands move slowly across his palms. Nothing in the room is changing. But still, the pressure inside of me is building. Not from what is actually happening, but from what my body is used to responding to. It's preparing for potential possibilities, even though none of those possibilities are currently here in the present moment. I can feel my attention narrowing, the room getting smaller around these predictions, the future becoming louder than what the present moment is actually showing me. And underneath it, that familiar sense of movement. It's almost like it creates a sensation of safety for myself, that stepping in early prevents pain later. That responsibility means staying ahead of the moment at all times. My body is still holding that forward edge, ready, prepared, going to spring into action the second it's necessary. But while my body is preparing, the signal isn't quite confirming what my mind has predicted, because this child has not actually moved from the position of rubbing in the lotion. I don't interrupt him. I don't call him out from across the room. I don't try to explain that he should have only had one squirt. This moment is here. He is where he is, and I am where I am. The thoughts keep moving through my mind while it's all happening. But a different conclusion is unfolding. Do I do something now? Do I get ahead of this? Or do I wait? And while I continue waiting, I notice the room around us. I notice the children breathing. I notice the children laughing. One child stands up to go throw something away. Another sits quietly as she selects a different color marker. And while this is happening, his shoulders begin softening. And as his shoulders begin softening, my shoulders begin softening. The lotion bottle rests in the regulation basket. His breathing slows. Nothing has escalated. The things in my mind that I was predicting have already started to loosen. And now I'm preparing for something that has never fully arrived. And slowly, my attention begins to return to the room again, to the children sitting at tables, to the sounds around me, to my own breath, to the feeling of the chair beneath me. I'm still here, still inside this experience. But there's space. There's space of knowing that what my mind was predicting that might happen next has actually unfolded in a completely different way. And this is something new. This is a new experience. Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves feel like we're in immediate danger. But what is actually happening is there's a moment inside that's unfolding in a way that we were not anticipating. And that feels unfamiliar. So even though our minds can predict clearly, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the way something is going to unfold. And in this instance, nothing is actually required right now. My thoughts can be here, and I can still remain witnessing the experience versus intervening with the experience. Our weaving has come to a close on this full moon. What is here does not have to be carried alone anymore. It can simply be felt. And sometimes we don't have to do this alone. We can do this together. As we move towards the last quarter moon, something softens in its own time. Our next episode, why does something feel a little less tight than it did before, will come into view. Until then, the spools have been threaded, and we remain with the loom.